All right, here we go. We're going to start documenting the solos tournament, and I'm going to follow my games going through there. We finished the pool play. We're going into bracket play at this point, so we're going to start with the elimination bracket. So my first game, I got Blitzkrieg here is going to be my opponent. Later on in the series, I am in a duos tournament with Terrence as my partner, and when we get into the brackets there, I might record a game or two there, depending on who we're facing. There's some really good opponents in there. But for this one, we're doing the solos first round game, going against Blitzkrieg. While that's pulling up, I'm gonna pull up on my other screen what the brackets looking like, if I can do it really quickly. So we're already in UK1. I did the first one, standard 4 infantry, 2 tanks, did 9-12 attack. I had 7 infantry live in West Russia. I had 3 tanks live in Ukraine, moved my AA in there. Good luck for me. German attack. He came 5 infantry, 2 fighters into Ukraine, and he had pretty good luck too. No fighters got shut down, and he only lost 1 infantry in that counter. So pretty strong, better than expected Ukraine. He also was successful with C-Zone 10 as he did the split here, and he bought a bomber, did Transjordan. So those are the main points. Kind of fairly standard plays for it. The buy was the typical 7 infantry, 2 artillery, and a bomber there. So that's where we're standing at in that regards. We're up on the UK1, and so this is where I start to look at, okay, what do I want to do? Can I drop a UK fleet turn 1 or not? So, all right, real quick before I get too much into my round 1 build, just to kind of give you guys an idea what we're looking at bracket wise. This is the bracket we're facing in the tournament. There's a lot of really good players and a long way to go from me sitting down here. In brackets, I had a loss to Snake, which if you guys watched my puzzle video, I talked about the the round 2 Russia dice. That was my 1 loss in the pool play, and it was a Snake. So I'm looking forward, if I happen to get a victory here, to get a revenge match against Snake. So Snake, if you're listening, I'm coming. I'm hopefully coming. I gotta get past Blitzkrieg first here. But you can see through the names, a lot of really strong players all throughout the bracket here. So it's going to be a long way. I don't know how far I'm going to make it this time, but we shall see. All right, so UK, I decided I'm going to go with my opener that I'm going to be doing a video later on, my UK twist update. So I'm not going to go into the details right now, but I'm deciding I'm not going to be able to drop a fleet here. He's got the 5 fighters, a bomber, and a sub that'd be able to hit it. Hopefully I will be able to take care of that sub with the US destroyer. I could bring a cruiser, destroyer, carrier build, but that's still what, 5 defending versus 7 attacking. And I've been playing with this build anyway, so it's where I build a sub UK1. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to build an infantry, I'm going to build a sub, a fighter, and a bomber. Because a lot of my play now, I'm skipping killing the German battleship round 1. I've never done the bomber buy before, but without being able to build my fleet this time, I'm going to go with it because I want to dead zone the Mediterranean by both the UK and the US for round 2. So I'm going to buy the bomber to help dead zone this area. So like I said, I've been skipping this kill on the battleship lately. I'm going my cruiser fighter in here because I did have good results. By the way, I did leave a little bit of Russia, the 1 unit back. Not a big deal there, but it is something. And we're gonna take him out. Sometimes I like to take the risk on the bombing rate, sometimes not. I think I'm just gonna pass it this time because I really want this bomber to be alive to help dead zone the next round. So we're gonna skip it this time and see how we do here. Let's see, I feel like I'm forgetting something here. We can't do anything with these guys. gonna take care of that transport. Oh yeah, Transjordan. That's what I'm forgetting. Whew. You know, we're just gonna take it all just to be on the safe side. You know, one thing we always got to be careful here when we skip the battleship. I'm already pretty much saying I'm bringing my U.S. fighter in here because he's going to be able to bring them plus a potential blitz. Sometimes I like to leave the infantry behind and see how this goes, and if I get lucky. But I think I just want to take the 5 since he's got 2 here and just really make sure I kill them as quickly as possible and lose as few units as possible there. Like I said, nothing I really want to attack here with him without for the risk of it. So let's see. Everything else looks pretty good. We're gonna leave it there. I got triple looking every time. It's been a while since I've recorded a video, and when I get talking, a lot of times I end up forgetting something. So I apologize. I'm taking a little bit longer than usual because I don't want to start out with a stupid mistake just to begin the whole game. All right, let's go with it. By the way, I'm letting the dice roll this right now. I may take this out in the post game, but sending the cruiser fighter here makes me feel a little better than the cruiser carrier too. A couple times I lost that, and I don't know. I feel a lot better winning that than losing that. And of course, there is repercussions of not killing the German battleship. There we go. All right, got the 2 hits. Good deal. 1 hit. Okay. I feel a little bad not using all my Air Force over here, but I'm gonna bring them all in here. So I'm bringing what I'm going here for the UK dead zone. 3. So I'm gonna double check my plan here. All right, so for the dead zone, we're gonna have a UK bomber here, which can go across the Mediterranean. This way, UK bomber coming here. So we got 2 bombers covering everything. I always like to have a 3rd unit in there. The cruiser's gonna cover C zone 14 if they were to come back. So that leaves 16, 15, 17. Putting the fighter here, covers here and here. So that's the route I'm gonna go. I'm going to dare him to go ahead and try and take me with those 2 fighters there. Now you say I forgot to pick up my guy here. I've been skipping it lately. It's a little bit risky just because I'm letting letting him have a shot with a sub on the cruiser empty transport. There's a lot to be said here. The 1 unit here can cause headaches sometimes with Japan expansion, and I just prefer not to risk having the unit in there, and I'm just going to pick up these 2 guys with the transport eventually anyways. It does limit some of the play as the transport comes around here where he could get involved earlier with a unit or 2, but I'm leaving him empty. And I'm going to explain this here in a little bit after we get everything finished moving. Move him in. Oh, I knew I forgot to do something. Oh well. I normally pull a couple guys back into Persia here. That's what I forgot to do in my non-combat. Anyways, so here we are. The whole idea the last thing that I will point out is if he chooses to send his 2 fighters for the kind of easy kill and the carrier transport, he's got to pull his carrier and battleship over. I will have 2 subs, 2 fighters, and a battleship that can, excuse me, a bomber that can target that. It's a pretty high risk move, especially if I could go into turn that into a KJF. So I leave it open there. I give him that option. These 2 subs also are targeting the C zone here, as well as this guy could be targeting there. The bomber, he can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So unless it takes Echelon, the bomber's actually targeting 61. So we got 2 subs and a bomber pressuring 61. So whatever he does J1, he's got to be mindful of that with his, if he leaves a transport there. So just some different plays. I'll go into that more detail at another day. All right, so here we go into US1. Got some discussion points, some planning points here. First off, we're going to look at Japan. They bought 2 transports and a complex. Combat, they'd have Burma, Onway, Pearl, and Yunnan. And you can see the big thing here is they had too much success in Pearl, where they won without losing anything, submerged, and so they had to move their fleet into here. So they've got the Pearl fleet ripe for the picking, and they built a complex and 2 transports. So non-defensive for the KJF aspect, other than they'll have a land producing spot here. So right off the bat, I was planning on doing a KGF today and showing how my sub buy can still be valid and how we can use this Indian fleet to really harass Japan. But I'm just going to use this as a KJF video, which is funny because I've kind of made a name for myself as being a KJF person, when in reality 80% of my games probably are KGF and 20% KJF. But regardless, the one thing that's the biggest weaknesses towards the KJF is the fact that he does have 2 subs up here. He's got the 5 fighters and a bomber. So it's going to be really hard to get an Atlantic fleet up and going. He also, I let the battleship live, so this is something we've got to take care of quickly without losing control of Africa. And so this is where I wish I would have moved at least 1 more infantry over so that I'd have my transport could come here, pick up, and dump into Egypt to prevent him from taking these 4 units plus these 2 and stacking Egypt with 6 units. Because right now I can only attack with 4 land and then some air in here. So I do got 3 air, so I'd have 7 units to his 6, but 3 of them being air. I'm not great with that. So this is going to be, Africa's going to be a little bit trouble, depending on what he does with his battleship. We are going to try to dead zone that, and we'll go into more of that detail. But first, I want to talk about my updated thoughts on the KJF and the US and what the goals are. So my goals, I used to do this KJF where I come down and trade the US transports trying to take islands and trade back and forth with Japan while trying to take them. But I found building transports mid KJF would tend to hamper my attack. So my goal now is just to come straight in and stack one of the sea zones with my allied forces. And I've now determined my goal is by US turn 5, I am stacking one of these sea zones, 37, 47, or 48, with the US coming in 5 and UK forces coming in on UK 6, so that I'm building a factory US 6 on one of these money islands and then going from there. So the interesting thing about that, I'm saying US 5. So what that means is on turn 5, they have to be moving into these. So turn 4, to get into Philly or Borneo, they've got to be in season 44, and turn 3 being built. So it's only US turns 1, 2, and 3 builds that's going to determine my ability to stack a US5C zone with allies. So I want to take a look at what I want there. The key to this first stacking on US5 UK6 is not for me to be able to attack and clear the Japan fleet. It's for me to be able to get in and stack and be defensive. So I want as much of a defensive fleet as I can have built in US 1 to 3. And that's something I'm going to take a sidetrack. I'm going to make this one's going to be a little bit longer. I mainly published round 1 on this video just because I'm going to talk a bit on this here. So here we go. Some new thoughts on KJF planning. I threw this together real quick. I wasn't planning on doing this, so this is maybe not my greatest thing, but I've been looking at something, I call it total combat strength. This is my term. This is not a common term used anywhere outside of me, myself, and my brain. So don't expect to use this terminology with anybody else. It's just what I do. It's what I call this calculation is total combat strength. I gotta give credit to Danny Uncanny and the Discord. He's the one that kind of came together with this formula for trying to be able to calculate a battle and determining if it's a favorable battle or not without having to use a whole calculator, a shorthand way of doing it. So I've taken some of his work. I highly recommend checking out his information that he's put together in the Discord channel on it. But I've taken it and I call it total attack strength, TAS. And basically it's the attack power of all the units, whoever's doing the attacking, the attack power. So an infantry is 1, artillery is 2, infantry with artillery obviously is 2, tanks are 3, etc. Plus 2 times the total amount of attacking hit points. So if you've got on a ground force, if you've got 10 units attacking, that's 10 hit points times 2, so that would be 20. And if they had an attack power of, say, 30, that is 10 tanks. So they would have an attack power of 30, 2 times 10 tanks is 20, so their total attack strength would be 50. Similarly, total defense strength is the same thing, except for its defense power of all units, plus 2 times the defending hit points. Now, I use hit points instead of units, even though most of the time they're synonymous, because we are talking about a KJF. That means we have battleships in the picture, so I'm using hit points to reference into the battleships as well. Now, Danny Uncanny will tell you this is not a perfect formula. There's variances that come within it, and sea battles of one of them is one of the things, and all their oddball rules make it a little bit more challenging. But basically, looking at battle, he talks about comparing the TAS to TDS, or what I call TAS and TDS. For the purpose of this video, what I want to know is I want to build a maximum total defense strength fleet. And what can I do with the US to get there? So let's take a look at this in terms of air and sea units. So a sub has a defense power of 1, because they have to roll a 1 or a 1 to hit. And 1 sub is 1 unit or 1 hit point, so that's 2 times that. So 1 plus 2 equals a 3 for their total defense strength. Subs cost 6. So this is the calculation I really was interested in. What is total defense strength divided by the IPC? So total defense strength per IPC spent on it. So you can see my math. I went through all the basic units: sub, destroyer, cruiser. Sub and destroyer are both at 0.5s, cruisers at 0.42s, battleships 0.4, carriers 0.29, and fighters 0.6. So now, before someone starts going to say, but battleships and cruisers, they have the bombardments that makes their value worth more. You're right. You are correct. I'm not arguing that. What if they're doing all fighters? Subs aren't going to do any good. You're correct. That is correct. We'll talk about that in a bit. Or they're doing all subs. Yeah. So it's not an exact thing, and there's other things to be discussed here, such as what about carriers and fighters, and what do they really mean in this calculation? I'm just trying to get to objectively what's going to give me the best defense value stacking a US5Z zone. So again, here's the carrier and fighter base stats by themselves, but what about a carrier when we build 2 fighters? So the defense power is 4 plus 4 plus 2, or 10. That's 3 hit units, or 6 for the 2 times hit points. So the total defense strength of a loaded carrier is 16. Now, if we're building all that from scratch, that's 34 cost and gives us a 0.47 TDS IPC. But in the starting game, there's more US fighters than there are than just the 2 that you start with. I mean, there's 4 on the board to start with. So if we lose one of those, then maybe we have to build 1 fighter and use a pre-built one for free. Then the total cost is 24 and the TDS per IPC goes up. Well, what if, as I said, we actually have 4 fighters, so if we just build the carrier and we put 2 pre-built fighters on it, then we're getting that 16 TDS for a cost of 14, or a 1.14 TDS per IPC. So hopefully you can see where this is going, that pre-built fighters make carrier and fighters worth it. And even a carrier fighter group from scratch is not bad. So in total rank order, a carrier with 2 pre-built fighters is the best. Carrier plus 1 built fighter is second best. And those are pretty standing out. So if I've got extra fighters and I'm looking for defense power, carrier is probably going to be my best way to go. Subs and destroyers come in tied at 0.5. I put subs slightly higher than destroyer. The reason being, if we flip this over, and eventually the US are going to be attacking. So if I was looking at TAS, total attack strength, the sub goes up to a 2, which would make their total attack strength 4 out of 6, or a 0.67. But for defense, they're equal. And then carrier plus 2 fighters from scratch is just slightly less than sub and destroyers. But again, the thing you can't put value on here is fighters can also fight on land. And there's a value that's not quantified in here based on the fact that these fighters actually can help the land battle out as well, where subs, destroyers, and the carrier itself cannot do that. And then cruiser and battleships. I'll be honest, I stay above this line because I'm not doing a lot of bombardments in my KJF, so this isn't great for me. I do know there's some very highly skilled players that build battleships and are very successful with them. So I'm not saying boohooing it all together. I'm just saying it's not me. I stay above this line. I'm building up here. If I've got spare fighters, I'm building carriers. Otherwise, I've got sub, destroyer, carriers, and fighters from scratch. It really depends on the game situation. So, in particular, in the first 3 ones, first round, US has 42 IPC to spend. Round 2, if they left Kwang Tung empty, US is going to have 42 again. Round 3, US is likely going to be down to 40 IPC to spend as China goes south. So in those first 3 rounds, we got 124 IPC to spend. So I already know I'm building 2 carriers because we've got 4 fighters sitting on the board. Maybe we lose 1. We're down to 3. It's still worth building 2 carriers. So I can go ahead and take out the first 28 IPC is going to be spent on carriers, leaving us 96. That could be 16 subs. If you remember that graph, that's perfect, right? That's the best, 16 subs. Well, I'm saying nah, because reality is after turn 1, I'm probably only going to have 1 destroyer, maybe not even any destroyers living, and that's not going to work when we get to a sea battle against subs, or to have destroyers potentially for blockers, although I'm not a big destroyer blocker person, but they do come in sometimes you have to. So 3 destroyers is 24, leaving 72 left, which could be 12 subs. So starting plan for my first 3 rounds, I'm going to look to build a total of 2 carriers, 3 destroyers, and 12 subs. Subject to change. This is obviously very subject to how the game goes. If I'm very low on destroyers and they're very high on fighter planes, then we need more destroyers. But for total defense power, this is my best buys for the first 3 rounds. So this is where it's going to come from. This is what my buys are going to be the first 3 rounds. Again, the one exception may be if we're running too low on destroyers, we may have to substitute 4 subs out, 24 IPC, and build 3 more destroyers. So it would be 6 destroyers and 8 subs. But I just want to kind of talk around, this is what I'm going for in the beginning there. And so again, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 U.S. fighters. So we need those 2 carriers to be part of the whole picture. So anyways, this is a little more detail on thinking about the U.S. portion of what's going on. And again, what my goal is, and we're going to see how things go. I'm a little worried. There's a couple things I'm worried about how things will go. We're going to see how he reacts, and we're just going to go with it. I'm not, like I said, I'm most worried about the Atlantic here, though. So for purchases, I'm still buying, the standard 1 carrier, 1 destroyer, 2 subs. You say, well, why don't you just buy the 2 carriers right off the bat? Well, because of what I'm getting ready to do with my fighters. They're not going to actually be able to get on that carrier on US2, and they're not going to be able to get on the carrier until close to US4 or so. So I can save time and see what happens before building that carrier. So here's the tricky part. I want to work on these subs as early as I can. Ideally, I would use the fighter here to finish this guy off and use my bomber over in this Pearl Harbor battle. However, because what I want to do, I want to get my fighter down here to Gibraltar, and he can't go 1, 2, 3, 4. He'd have to land back on the US, which leaves things unprotected over here. So unfortunately, I'm not very big on just doing the destroyer sub either, so I'm going to use my bomber here, which means I'm going to be a little bit less on the forces here. Good news, I just have to hit 3. I don't have to hit the fighter. Depending on his defense order, the fighter will crash. But we're going to go with it and see how that goes. So a little bit risky there. Oh, don't want to forget this guy. Get those 2 points. All right. See the defense order? Oh, he did the defense order with the fighter going first. Rats. I was hoping not to lose the destroyer, but so the good news is that he didn't leave any others ships and planes in range of Pearl. Otherwise, I would have had to bring that bomber, and I kind of wish I had brought the bomber at this point, but it is what it is. He does have the battleship, the bomber fighter shot on the battleship. I don't know if he'll take that or not, but it's, well, and actually I forgot, the cruiser's going to come up, so he won't have that shot. We'll be okay. We'll be surviving. Bring him here. just double checking my math, making sure I can. Don't want to go with a cheap shot in here. So the bomber from here can 1, 2, 3 come out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 land there. You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and land it through there. And then we've got the bomber cruiser covering this side. So if he does take my fighter here, we'll be okay. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So I'm a little bit nervous about this, so I am going to actually send one transport around Africa to help clean up just in case. My other one, I am going to bring on around to head over here to meet up. And let's see here. Don't want to forget, we do need to stack up Transjordan. Do I want to put the fighters directly on there, or do I want to? I'm going to put them both on here, actually, with the carrier coming into play. So an interesting dilemma here is he is going to have the sub on destroyer shot. Originally, if I got to this point, I was going to drop one destroyer here, but because I lost the destroyer here, I'm a little nervous about being behind, so I'm going to go ahead and build him over here and hope for the best when he attacks, if he attacks. And we'll have to just deal with that later. Yeah, you know what? We're going to be all right. Alright, that'll be into this turn of US. I forgot I did want to discuss real quick this whole fighter going down here to Gibraltar. Yes, I am aware the transport can pick up some guys and hit there, and the battleship can hit there and kill that fighter. And that's just a sacrifice of a US fighter. That's part of just the whole process of saving my carrier. So if he does it, then I'll hit him with the cruiser, bomber, save my bombers. And at the end of the day, it means instead of normally where we sacrifice a bomber in here and the carrier to 61, so I'm going to save a UK carrier and bomber. I'll lose a UK cruiser and a US fighter, but he's also, in doing so, he's going to be stranding land units on Gibraltar. So that's a loss of 7 units, or 6 if he did 2 infantry. That's not in the European or African battle. Plus, if he does that, he then can't stack Egypt. So I'm putting it out there. I'm willing to trade it if he's willing to. And I'm still going to sink the battleship one way or the other in round 2. Alright, heading into Russia 2. It's tempting to go 8 infantry, 1 artillery, and really get defensive, but let's see. You know what? I think this turn, I am going to go extra defensive for this turn. We may buy a few more artillery later because I'm going to play a little conservative today. I'm only going to use 1 of my artillery. So one of the things that I do note right away is I do need to land a Russian fighter down here for me to feel comfortable, because he's going to have a tank, infantry, artillery, bombardment, and a bomber. So 4 and a bombardment. I got 4 down here right now. I just really feel like I need to have a fighter down here. I also want to end with my Russian tanks in Caucasus, just in case any J3 timings or anything I need to worry about in that regards. Hopefully I'm going to be able to keep them off of me just through boats and whatnot, but those are two of the things that I'm going to go into. I do want to take in a KJF. I really want to kind of take Corellia at least this turn because I don't want him building 2 units up near the frontier. It actually kind of helped me make my decision because he put all his tanks up here in the Baltic instead of having any here down in Poland. If he had Poland, then they'd be threatening through the Caucasus if I didn't take Ukraine. So with Ukraine being his biggest stack of infantry, and I can't really, and I want to make sure I attack up here, I'm going to attack these two, and that way his tanks can't threaten West Russia, and I can send stuff down to Caucasus, and I can leave Ukraine alone. So that's going to be my plan here. Trying to conserve units where I can. The downside is I got to take Bello. I have to take Bello, so I'm going to have to be a little more heavy-handed on it than I normally would like to be. So yeah, so we're going to make sure to take here. I can't use my fighter for these two or I won't be able to get them down, and so this is my one bummer. If I was attacking Ukraine, I would be able to, but I just don't want to throw all my units against them because I'm going to have to take this fairly heavily because I don't want those tanks blitzing through. And, you know, I could do 3 infantry and artillery and a fighter, but at the end of the day, 4 of his units are 1s on attack. If I use 4 of any of my units, they're going to be ultimately defenders, so those are 2s on a defense. So I'm hurting me by sending even equal number of troops in there. So I'm going to leave that be. Good. Happy with that. I think it was like a 93% chance on this, so. Oop. Yeah. Come on. Come on. There's a hit. Let's get the hit, finish it. There we go, I feel better. I can breathe again. So I generally don't like going there like that, but but it protects me from his tanks. All he's got is 4, 5, and the bomber there. Oh, let's do some quick checks here. So he can bring battleship 4. These guys can't reach. Bomber can reach. So each of these guys counts as a 3, so that's going to be 12. The bomber counts as 6, that's going to be 18 attacking me. Don't want to forget about these guys. So each of these are 4. So 26 on attack. I'm going to be building 4 infantry. So that'll be 60. Plus 3 of the tanks, 31. A couple fighters, so we should be good there. Just because I don't want to do something stupid, I'm just going to run the calculator. I'm going to plug it into the calculator itself here because I don't want to be dumb. Not my normal setup here, so I don't want to come back in looking and going, what in the world happened? So 5 infantry, tank, a bomber, battleship is what you can bring. Oh yeah, definitely. We're still good. Okay. Thought it was good, but I just don't want to be making a silly mistake early in the game. All right. So there we go. That's going to be end of round 2 Russia. All right. I'm going to try and keep this a little quicker now that I did my outline on US1 on the whole KJF. But coming in through here, so we're taking a look at where we're at. Coming up on UK2, Germany 2. So he bought 10 infantry, 3 artillery, smart buy. He's getting ready to do the long march. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on this. If it starts changing the tanks, then we know what he's thinking timing-wise. He took Egypt with the 1. He tried to use a bomber on C-Zone 23. I actually didn't even think about him trying to do that. I don't know that I would have taken a bomber at a cruiser without a transport attached to it, but then I guess what he was trying to do is get out of that dead zone by taking out the US fighter, so I'd only have 2 bombers able to attack his battleship. I probably would still take that battle, but if it had worked, it would have been profitable for him. So kudos to him for something I hadn't really thought about. Although now I think about it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Even if the bomber had lived, he'd have been sitting there, and I could have hit him with my transport and killed the bomber then as well. So I guess he was willing to risk that to try to free that battleship up. But the good news of what that does, like I said, a fighter for an infantry and artillery to me is almost an even trade. You know, talking about that total attack strength, total defense strength. You know, my fighter as a total defense strength is a 6 and total attack strength is a 5. They're infantry artillery that are now forever going to be stranded on Gibraltar, so they might as well be dead, is 4 hit points and 4 attack and defense points. So that's 8 total attack strength, total defense strength versus my 5, 6. So, to me, it's pretty good. Sure, 10 IPC versus 7 IPC, so maybe he builds an infantry to counter that. But at the same time, that whole deal let me keep a UK bomber alive and a UK carrier alive. So I think I come out ahead of that by trading in essentially my cruiser and my US fighter for his infantry artillery and being able to keep a bomber carrier. So take it for what it is. I like it. I like the trade-off. I'll do it most often, anytime. So that being said, he did come up here. He's got a mini stack on Bello, a full stack on Karelia, just one guy here on Ukraine. For a little bit, I've contemplated. So I always contemplate my whole allies' turn generally on UK quite frequently, especially in a KGF. But in this case, I thought about, what if I killed his Bello and killed his Ukraine, then I'm going to get to save Ukraine because he's got nothing in Poland and the tanks couldn't get through. But because I had to take my fighter down here, it's a little bit awkward and it's going to make it awfully thin, and I wouldn't be able to hold West Russia if I did that. I don't think so. We're not going to do that. But the other positive that came out of it, because he had to use his fighter over here presumably to help trade, he only has 4 fighters that can now reach C-Zone 7. So this is an opportunity for me to drop an Atlantic UK fleet, and in this case, anytime I can do it, I got to get some boats in the water, even though I can't get the transport there yet. I think that's a positive, so I feel like I got to build that. Over on the Pacific side, talking about that total attack strength, total defense strength. So considering the builds that I'm going to make, I do need to make a fighter carrier now because I did let my one fighter die, plus the subs destroyers that I'm going to build. I added up what all, plus the UK ships that are currently on the map, could be here in US5, UK6. And then I kind of estimated what his mathed out what his Japan buys could be, and kind of planned out that anything built on Japan 5, I'd be able to destroyer block. So I took one destroyer out, and basically you added up what he could buy and got his total attack strength to be 126, my total defense strength to be 111. So that's leaving me 15 short which is, if you remember from US video, US1, a carrier and 2 fighters extra will be a 16. So I've got the fighters on the board already. They're going to go to the Atlantic this turn, but they can get back down here. So at some point, I want to try to get a carrier build in India, if at all possible. The other component of it is it also could be 4 or 5 subs over the next few rounds that could be built there. And of course, that's if he does 100%, boat build. He may choose to build some infantry, some ground to get in there. They not quite as efficient buying air and whatnot. So the games can still change, and there's of course gaming with destroyers and positioning and all that sort of stuff still to be played out. So we'll see. It's going to be tight. It's definitely going to be tight. I actually thought about I'd bring my cruiser back this way to try to join these guys, but I really don't like leaving the fighter bomber with the battleship with my transport there. So I'm going to bring my cruiser up just to keep him protected. So that's the plan. I really, with all that said, I wanted to build another sub this turn and bring these out of the way. He's only got 1 destroyer alive, so if he used his destroyer, I'd be able to kill it and just be able to move right along and keep pumping out units out of here. But a real threat here is still J3 India, even in the KJF. So I wanted to look at what if he brought all his transports and all these units down here into C Zone 36 and stacked Burma. I need to have enough here to prevent him from stacking Burma, basically, because then it's going to get really ugly. Protect India, and we don't really lose India if at all possible in a KJF to Japan, I should say. Later on into Germany, that's just a possibility. So here we go. Purchase is going to be 3 infantry for India. Good old destroyer carrier up here for the Atlantic. Combat-wise, I am not opposed to using 2 UK fighters to pick off a single German in a KJF as we go along. In this particular case, Russia really isn't going to have a lot of other targets, and I'm going to be able to use both fighters on that, so I'm not going to do it here, but later on in the game, you'll see I just might take a battle where I take two air versus 1 infantry, but not this turn. Not this time. To bomb or not to bomb, we are going to bomb the... almost forgot, we got to take out the battleship. Duh. So, there's our dead zone there. We are going to use our transport to take out this guy. 1, 2, 3, just want to make sure we don't got anything. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. These fighters got to fly back to C Zone 7, so we're not going to mess with them. Don't want to send the second fighter there. Let's see, they're going to be able to attack with 2 units. Only 2 of the fighters can make it, so 4 units plus the battleships. We're going to have 7 and a fighter, so we should be good there. Double checking myself. Again, it's been a while since I've done the videos. I want to make sure I don't forget something. I think we're good. Oh, good gracious. Well, there's a hit at least. Ah, really? Okay, now that's going to change all my plans out now. That messes things up a bit. Alright, well, we'll deal with that. That's the reason I sent the second fighter, is to make sure that we killed Egypt on the first roll. Alright, at least he goes in one shot. Oh, hey, bonus. I'll take that. Now you can risk some fighters, maybe take out a fighter too, or let it live and let me bring that cruiser on down into the Indian Ocean. Egypt's going to be a headache. Ah, it's a good thing I kept that one American transport. Oh, are you kidding me? Don't do this on this side too. Thank you. That one U.S. transport to be able to clean up Southern Africa in case that he blitzes his tank through. Yeah, we got some protection there. I think we'll be okay ultimately. Just not going to be able to do exactly what I was wanting to do. Bombers back up into here. 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they're still good there. You're going to go in there. So, because I failed there too, I got to watch out for these fighters going 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to go ahead and put both fighters on there. I do want this tank back to be able to threaten down here as well as a threaten here. I was going to be pulling my artillery back just in case for prepping for some defenses and whatnot as well. Now he does have 4 units he could bring here. I will have my transport here that I'll be able to come grab India and come back, plus the artillery, plus the tank, so that's 4, plus my 2 fighters and my 2 bombers. So I got a lot to clear it out. But if he blitzes a tank and moves his men in there, and he comes down here, put pressure on Burma, it could get dicey. Could get dicey down here. Let's go ahead and bring him on with us. Might as well. Sure the bomber can't reach there. Oh, don't want to forget about these guys. But yeah, I gotta keep the artillery there because I don't want his tank getting a cheap shot and taking out a fighter. So yeah, keep the artillery there. It's not what I wanted to do, but it'll be all right. If we had taken the Egypt, then I could have moved the artillery back and still had him threatened and with the tank and transport and whatnot. So, anyways, I think that does it for the UK turn. I wish I had a live audience to tell me if I was missing anything, but I think we are good. I am really happy about this. It'll be interesting to see if he thinks trying to kill it is worth it or not. If he doesn't, I can bring him back up here with my fleet, or possibly go through this way. You know, I'm kind of excited the cruiser lives. If he does kill it, maybe we get to take out a fighter as well as a bomber. It'd be a heroic cruiser. So one thing, especially, you know, an even trade appears more beneficial for Axis, unlike in a KGF where, you know, there's no way they'd take that. I want to be careful he doesn't take a 1-round shot and sink my carrier and make it a waste. So I do want to switch over to my fighter before carrier profile. All right, there we go. That's it for today, or on this one. Okay, US2, here we go. We are looking at, sorry, let's go back to, oops, wrong button. To Japan 2, he bought a transport, a carrier, and a bomber. I played a little bit differently. I don't think we need 4 transports as Japan here, but he's going with the 4 transport system. I'm guessing that means he's going to try and get as much land down into Japan or onto the mainland as he can. But he didn't build any land here, so I'm not really sure. You know, he's only got 3 transports worth of units here to carry right now, so I'm not sure what his plan is necessarily. But in any case, We also got the carrier and the bomber. So the interesting thing here is, to me, these are two different strategies. So buying a carrier doesn't help his attacking at all because it's only an attack of one, and the airplanes positioned well on the islands can attack my fleet at any time. So he's not really increasing his total attack strength, TAS. You know, he's only adding a 3 there. The bomber, though, is a good TAS improvement because that's going to give him a 6 added onto his TAS. But bomber doesn't help defense at all. Carrier helps defense, so it's going to help his total defense strength, but not his total attack strength. This is going to help his total attack strength, but not his total defense strength. So it's a little bit of an inconsistent buy for me, so that makes me a little bit happy when I was talking about, you know, I definitely need some builds from UK. This may make it just about equal without any more builds from UK, so if I get a sub or 2 more down in India, that hopefully will tip the battle for that US5, UK6 timing that I was talking about. That being said, a carrier and a bomber means he's also going heavy air is going to be his approach to his KJF. He didn't build any subs in there. So I'm not really going to go into the sub building. You know how I said my best TDS is going to have a lot of subs because he's going to have a lot of air. I'm going to want a little bit more surface ships. So, so for purchasing, we are going with the fighter carrier that we had already established was a gimme. And then I'm going to put 2 destroyers on there. Save 2. I'm going to have, that'll save me 40 IPC for next time when I can put 5 more destroyers if he continues to stay air, or we could put, what is that, 4 subs and 2 destroyers for 6, so a little bit more total defense, but also leaning on subs. And so that's the plan that we're going to go with here. Let's see, probably not really going to be doing any attacks. Anything good we could hit here? Nothing really, nothing that we want to hit, so. Don't believe we have any attacks. I should have looked at it closer to start with. For the US, I think the US is just going to be hanging tight, and positioning. The one thing I am kind of regretting is not moving my Russians last time over here because he's dead zoned between his 3 infantry, his tank, his couple fighters, and his bombers that can all reach into there. I can't really get the Russians back, and you know, those are 4 units I would like to have back here defending, so we're just going to have to kind of hang tight over here. Good news is he doesn't have anything taken much on this side, so we shall see what we can do with that. Alright, non-com. But I'm going to keep him over here to help my infantry maybe next time. We're just going to come on around this direction and be able to help threaten them when we get over there. So with my American fleet, I'm actually going to come up north with everything. And nothing we can really do there. So the idea being here is I want to pull him this direction a little bit to help be able to drop a boat or 2 down here in India. And by coming up into 64, I can threaten both 62 and 60 through C-Zone 63. He could use a destroyer block, which will block all 62, but then I still got threat on 60. And I do have my fighters and my bomber here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, threatening 62. So we still have some threat going there. In addition to the fighters, the fighter here can go 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is something you gotta be careful of, where the carriers 2, even if he destroyer blocked, if we sent a sub to the destroyer, then the carrier potentially could come to 62, and so you could send a fighter from 56 to attack 62. So those are those kind of tricks you gotta be mindful of. But that's probably not going to come to application in my game. But we also have this fighter here could go 1, 2, 3, 4, can also hit 62. The fighters on this can go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I actually will have 4 fighters and a bomber that can hit 62 as well next turn if he's not mindful of it, if he tries to build something there. Double checking. I'm going max, since I lost my guys over here, we're just going max defensive build here with the Russians. Again, we want to trade lightly with the using Russians against the Germans. I just want to kill this guy and maybe make the territory. He has nothing that can blitz through it, so he's not going to have anything coming that way in it. He can easily trade it next turn, so I'm just not going to go heavy against him. And I just don't want to go 1-for-1 with him on his bigger stacks, not with my Russians. Yay, we got to take it. Too often forget to put that guy to block the tank rush into Moscow, but I'm not going to forget it this time. So here's an interesting thought. I want him to bring his navy up to 62 or 60 to allow me to potentially drop some more boats here down in Sea Zone 35. He could hang out in 61, but what if I lured by putting some Russian infantry down here in Buryasha? The only way he can reach it is via transport. If he brings a transport, then he's going to want to cover it up with some units because we got this, and maybe even bring in a destroyer block. So I'm going to throw some bait in here for him and see if he bites on it. I could do just one unit even, really, I suppose. Yeah, I'm going to do the 2 units so he doesn't do just like an air wipe on there. It'd be risky to do the just air flight to try to kill the 1. And so now maybe he has to use a transport and move his fleet up here. So I want to pull his fleet this way. And if he doesn't move them, then I got a better chance that I could even possibly hit Manchuria with a infantry. If he tries to do a total plane wipe on it, which he could, that'd be pretty risky. I'll take the 2, the Russians taking out a Japan fighter. That wouldn't be the bad thing. So we're going to do that, see if we can bait between this and this, bait him coming up. Maybe you have to use a destroyer block in the meanwhile, and see if we can pull him into an idea where we also have 2 fighters and a bomber that can reach 62. That maybe he'll overlook that. You just never know.